Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Wordspace Radio. Today is a special Wordspace dedicated to a talented writer and lecturer of ours, Oz Hardwick. Joining me in the studio is three other humans, none of whom are Oz Hardwick. And he doesn't know that we're doing this. But so hey.
Hello.
Hi.
We thought it'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just thought we'd do a little podcast for Oz, because I'm sure the people who listen to this are mostly Leeds Trinity students or have had chats with Oz in the past. Great guy. We're missing him greatly. He's off sick for the semester, so we look forward to having him back for experimental writing and stuff like that in our level 6 endeavours, and I'm sure everyone else wants him back too.
Yeah. And we're all, we've been taught by Oz for 2 years now, so we're all quite familiar with a good chunk of his work, so we all just thought, for a quick last 20 or 30 minutes before we have to get kicked out of the studio, we'll all choose our favourite poem by him that we know, read it out, have a chat, and hopefully it'll help him feel better.
Just as a good get-well jester.
Yeah.
A get-well jester.
Jester.
We should send him a get-well jester.
We
Yeah.
could. Should we arrange a jester for him?
I'm happy to dress up.
That's a bit
Or
weird.
don't.
Alright, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's get crack-a-lacking.
We decided that I'll start.
Cool.
My favourite poem of Oz's is from his latest book, The Ringmaster's Apprentice. My favourite of Oz's works from The Ringmaster's Apprentice. He read this out at Words. It wasn't at Wordspace actually. It was at some weird Wordspacey thing in the afternoon, where a few people came around because he was supporting the release of his book, and I bought a copy then and really enjoyed it. But this one I just really enjoyed this one. This captured me. I really enjoyed it, yeah. It's called The Secret Library. Words hide behind a blank facade, carefully arranged in codes of whim and chance, secret ciphers for those in the know, as storefronts stand guard, distracting, prying eyes before blending into Saturday's crowd, arousing no suspicion, and plainclothes librarians smuggle lines through edgy customers, creep unseen up the back stairs to sink into leather armchairs surrounded by books and silence. Out in the street, frustrated car horns blur, irate parents berate impatient children, and a homeless loner raises his head to a sound like turning pages, distant thunder, flowers falling hard from the cloudless sky.
Brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
I remember him reading that one.
Yeah. It might have been at Wordspace as well, actually.
I was going to say, I'm sure he read it at a Wordspace. Or it perhaps was one that he read when we interviewed him.
Oh, it could
Possibly.
have been. Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, I really enjoyed it, just because he explained it in more detail of how I'm not sure, it might be York, because he lives in York, so possibly York. But the way he described it was just sort of going up this secret little passage into a book, a library at the top. And the way he described it, and obviously as you get from the poem, is just fantastic how it's so secluded from everything else. It's just a nice little relaxing place, because I'm pretty sure everyone wants a relaxing
Everyone
place.
has an idea of what they want as a relaxing place
Yeah.
as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, and there's something super duper cool about this idea of a secret little
Oh,
place
yeah.
all of your own kind of thing.
Like some underground cult of librarians. I'd love to be in that club.
We should totally start it.
We should.
Yeah.
Oz could lead it.
That's
There
it.
we
Get
go.
well soon, Oz, so you can come back and join our cult.
I'm sure that's a good incentive to get back.
Yeah.
If ever there was one.
So the poem I've chosen to read is from The Illuminated Dreamer, and it's called Stained Glass World, and I love stained glass. But it's a pretty good poem.
It's fine. Mostly the
No,
stained glass.
It is
though.
a really good poem, and I think it's just pretty. I'll just read it. In the light of fragments, cracked joys, restored glories of true time, glass hands hold a glass globe. Medieval world, tripartite, earth, sea and heaven, small and distant, detailed lines by craftsmen's hands and centuries. Lives may pass, faith fade as science redraws creation, but this has held, this small planet, barely understood, infinitely beautiful, origin unknown, God blessed or sustained by chance. This is a window to see ourselves, fragile, precious. Isn't that such a great poem?
Wow. That's the first time I've heard that one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading it, I was just like, wow, I've got to read this. Love it.
I feel like you've read that somewhere before, and he was explaining how amazing stained glass windows are, and you got to agree, and it shines through in that, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, because what I think is, like, if you look at stained glass windows, there's bits of history in it.
Yeah.
So, like, there could be a saint, but in the background there's, like, a ship or there's, like, a globe and stuff. And he's basically just, like, picked out everything in this stained glass window, and I think that's just amazing.
Yeah. He lives in York, we mentioned that, and obviously is surrounded constantly by history living there.
Yeah.
It's the second most well-preserved medieval city in the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you can't really escape that kind
No,
of
not really.
historical, kind of a historical awe.
I think it's good that you can be inspired by it, because some people just wouldn't.
No, a lot of people would walk past things like that without paying it too much mind, but I suppose that's what makes a writer a good writer, is when they notice the
There's finer
big things
details
in
in
small
life.
details,
Yeah, definitely.
Right then.
So the one I'm going to read is Autumn, and it's in The Illuminated Dreamer, once again. And, I'm just going to read it for you guys. Out of sight, a penny whistle plays, a lonely song that only shadows hear. The empty streets are swept by gargoyles' gaze. The church bells muffled in the autumn haze, a sad refrain insistent on the ears. Out of sight, a penny whistle plays. The melancholy tune weaves winding ways and calls to one who never will appear. The empty streets are swept by gargoyles' gaze. The darkling evening may no fort erase. A harsh wind warns that winter's drawing near. Out of sight, a penny whistle plays. Hard memories no music can erase. The mist-kissed cobbles glisten like a tear. The empty streets are swept by gargoyles' gaze. Who is the minstrel of these dying days, whose lilt laments the loss of one held dear? Out of sight, a penny whistle plays. The empty streets are swept by gargoyles' gaze.
Awesome.
Beautifully read. Well done. That's fantastic. I've read that one myself a few times. It's a brilliant one. It's a villanelle.
Which we love.
Yeah. For anyone who didn't notice, I noticed. Ba-boom. So, should we impress?
Takes a lot of skill to write those.
It does. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Me and you have both tried to write a villanelle before.
I wouldn't even attempt it, to be honest. Prose all the way.
It's difficult. He's got a masterful way of, like we said, what we found hardest when we wrote our villanelles was actually making the refrains still make sense in each context, the context of each stanza, and did an amazing job of that.
Yeah.
So spectacular alliteration in that poem as well.
Yeah. It makes it so lyrical when you read it as well. It's just like, beautiful.
Yeah.
Fantastic piece. You three have read some of his more contemporary, easier to understand ones from the nice, light-hearted poetry books that he's published. I've gone for a weird one because he's at the moment absent from experimental writing. I thought I'd read some of Oz Hardwick's experimental writing himself, and I've got, forgive me Oz if I pronounce this wrong, an estological bestiary. So yeah, and I chose my favourite animal from the bestiary. I'm going to read lion. Brace yourselves, because this one's fun. Lion entwines his tail around others and does not dare to open his eyes. If lion is born dead, he will demand DNA testing to verify his divinity, only revealing himself physically dead, or at least quite rare at the very last second. There are two kinds of breeding which bring lion to life. The first is physically divine nature, the other his sleeping as its main meaning. After 3 days, sick lion smokes less than 30 per day, mates face to face and drinks with his eyes open, roaring that he is being hunted. Subsequently revealing himself to his followers, Lion will not attack during this third day, even if surrounded, though his firmness may undergo transformation due to the great hunger. Animal strength is seen in Lion's white cock, itself spiritually alive in its long, timid tracks. When Lion is cross, he calls for the extermination of all unnatural prizes, but will allow captives to retain their faces. Lion is dead to life. The sound of creaking cartwheels, the spit of fire, and the yelp of the hunting circle only become frightening when in the sight of the ground. With the last Christian meal, Lion becomes sterile.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool. Great example of experimental writing.
Yeah.
It's the entire book's like that, and it's mad in a really, really fantastic way that you can't.
Yeah.
Because somehow
Definitely check
when you
that on
read it and you look at the animals and there's like pictures next to them, you get what he's saying, but at the same time you don't.
Yeah, there's wonderful way of the writing flows so beautifully that you read the entire thing in a state of
Yeah,
enjoyable
I understand this,
confusion.
Yeah. It's not just random words on a page.
yeah. No, there is some method to it, and I
Well,
think
there's an
it's-
awful lot of method to it, and I'm excited for him to come back and explain,
Yeah.
something more about it.
And look at our experimental writing pieces. I'm sure everyone will be cracking on with those by the time he's back.
Yeah, totally. All right. It was short, but it was sweet. I just hope that you've enjoyed it. Thanks for listening, guys.